Welcome to Universal Love, a sanctuary for spiritual seekers on the path to enlightenment. When we first have a spiritual awakening, we suddenly connect with all the unseen metaphysical reality, which had escaped us before. We start to learn about our quantum selves, the parts of us we cannot see with our physical eyes. We connect with our spirit guides and angels, who are always helping us on the other side. We learn about our souls and how they travel across many lifetimes here on planet Earth, and we become very interested in how to develop our psychic abilities and spiritual gifts. It is an incredible feeling to connect to all these spiritual realms, but we often overlook the most important thing in a spiritual awakening: our physical body. Your body is, in fact, your most important spiritual tool and the most sacred temple of your soul. It is the vessel that your soul chose to incarnate in this lifetime, and the universe honors and reveres it. If you don't deeply understand your body's inner workings, or how a spiritual awakening affects it, you risk facing some very uncomfortable physical challenges during your awakening. To make it easier for you to work through the many spiritual changes that happen in your body, it is important to know how your body works. This video offers an important preparation to spiritual awakening. Here we will discuss the 6 body parts most affected by a spiritual awakening, and the most important tips for working with your body so that your awakening feels effortless. Make sure you stay until the end of this video, because the last body part we will discuss is rarely mentioned in spirituality, and you may have never even heard of it. So let's start with the first body part that is most affected by a spiritual awakening: the heart. Your heart is so important, both on a physical and spiritual sense. There is so much going on at the level of the heart during an awakening, and it's mostly because our hearts have been closed for most of our lives. We live in mind-dominated cultures that typically repress emotions and give priority only to rational thinking, leaving our hearts traumatized, broken, and severely blocked. So when you awaken, your soul cracks open the heart chakra so that you can feel more of the world and yourself. We have to learn how to work with sadness, sorrow, and heartaches. All the heart's pains that were blocked will come up to be felt and healed when you have an awakening. This can feel overwhelming sometimes, but apart from processing heartaches, you will also feel the ecstasy, the wonder, and unconditional love. All states of being that many of us have never even felt before. There is a lot of energy at the level of the heart, and it is completely blocked in many of us, because the heart is the most emotional of all chakras, and we tend to block or ignore these emotions. The heart is where some of the hardest emotions, and some of the most beautiful emotions are felt. Once you have a spiritual awakening, your soul triggers your physical body to upgrade on many levels, and the upgrade of the heart chakra is a profound part of this awakening. It is important to remember that all of the energy centers are connected to actual physical organs. The heart chakra is connected to the lungs and to the heart, so a lot of times when we're having a spiritual awakening and that heart chakra cracks open, we have to learn very quickly how to work with the heart in a grounded way. Otherwise, it can be really uncomfortable on the body. A lot of us experience temporary heart rate changes and tachycardia. Your heart can feel like it's fluttering, and sometimes you can feel like you're having palpitations. You can go through a string of lung infections, asthma, pneumonia, or maybe even flu-like symptoms. It is important to note here that not all physical issues or heart issues are coming from a spiritual awakening. If you have a mechanical problem or a diagnosed physical issue in your heart, then you may have all these signs without them having anything to do with an awakening. So please always consult with a doctor and rule out any physical disease or issues when they come up. Another thing that happens as the heart chakra opens is that your physical heart becomes more sensitive. This is very common and sometimes frightening, but your physical heart is the center of perception of energies, and it is the center of intuition. When you have a really sensitive heart, your heart doesn't just beat. It doesn't just send blood to various parts of your body, which are the prime physical functions of that organ. But when you have a spiritual awakening, the heart has another function. The spiritual function of the heart is to be a major center for intuition, and it also perceives and interprets the energies around you. So if you have a really developed heart, it will tell you if something is off about the energies. Your heart will give you that information. Maybe it will skip a beat or two, or maybe you will have a little bit of a palpitation. A lot of times, if there's nothing actually physically wrong with your heart, it will start pumping or shrinking, and this can be the way your heart expresses itself, alerting you of the feeling of the energy. The second body part most affected by spiritual awakening is the nervous system. You've probably experienced anxiety at some point in your awakening, and that's because the nervous system has to work through so much. The physical function of the nervous system is to send signals from the brain to the rest of the body, but the spiritual function of the nervous system is to perceive and interpret energy. It interprets quantum information, or spiritual information, and transforms it into a manifestation in your body. It will perceive the outside world and the inside world. It perceives quantum energy. It perceives energy shifts, and it will turn that energy into an actual physical reaction. The nervous system goes through many shifts during a spiritual awakening. A lot of times the nervous system will become more sensitized, as you're getting rid of all this old baggage. As you're getting rid of all of these old wounds and past traumas, your nervous system will calm down, especially if you're coming from a lot of trauma. So the more you work with your nervous system, the more you heal trauma, and the more your nervous system calms down and comes into what is known as a parasympathetic nervous system state. That is the state where you become calmer, and your nervous system calms down because then it's not in fight or flight mode anymore. As it calms down, it also becomes more sensitive, which means that your nervous system can pick up subtle energy changes much more easily. If you don't understand and work with your nervous system during an awakening, especially teaching it to remain calm throughout the many changes, you're going to have a harder time. An overly heightened nervous system could misinterpret the symptoms of a spiritual awakening, making you think you're in danger when you're not. The more you calm down the nervous system, as it becomes more sensitive, the more you can learn how to work with its sensitivity and recognize what it's telling you and how it is interpreting energies. The third body area most affected by a spiritual awakening is at the level of your hormones. Hormones are chemical messengers that help your body and all of its organs function. Their physical function is to regulate organs and tissues, and also to help regulate moods. But when you're going through a spiritual awakening, your hormones can go completely out of order, and that's because your hormones are intimately connected to the energy centers known as the chakras. Your hormones are a physical representation of energy. The spiritual function of hormones is to send messages from the chakras into the organs and tissues governed by those chakras. Hormones send signals to organs and tissues. Those signals represent the energy balance or imbalance at the level of the chakras. For example, if you have a dysfunction at the level of the first chakra, which is the chakra of survival and safety, that chakra will stimulate more stress hormone production at the level of the adrenals, which are the glands at the top of your kidneys that are governed by the first chakra. This will lead your adrenals to produce more cortisol and adrenaline, and make the whole body feel stressed out. Hormones also work hand in hand with the nervous system to help you perceive and feel the universe. They help you understand what sadness is, what happiness is, and your hormones help you understand whether you're safe or whether you're not safe. So your hormones work closely with your intuition to interpret spiritual information and turn it into physical manifestations, just like your nervous system does. But when you're going through a spiritual awakening, your hormones can be out of balance because your entire energy system and chakras may be going through periods of healing, purging, and reprogramming. If your chakras are changing, then your hormones will also be a bit off until those chakras stabilize. The fourth body part most affected by an awakening is the brain. The brain's physical function is to control our body's processes and perceive physical reality through the five senses. It also stores a great deal of memories, thoughts, and beliefs. When we go through a spiritual awakening, the brain must experience an immense amount of rewiring. It begins to think in a different way and believe different things. It also needs to release old traumas and painful memories. In your brain, you have neural circuits that are used to believe and think in a certain way. So when a spiritual awakening happens, your soul triggers all of this healing and all of this upgrading to happen at the level of the brain. Your mind needs to upgrade, your brain needs to upgrade, and it upgrades by going through a rewiring of neural networks. This is wonderful because you're going to learn to release negative beliefs or disempowering beliefs. You're going to work through all of the subconscious painful memories that you have. You're going to learn a lot of different things when you're going through a spiritual awakening, and eventually your brain will be able to live out its spiritual function, which is to help envision and manifest your highest soul path on earth. But as your brain is rewiring and all of the stuff is coming up, it can be really jarring for people to go through these changes. Mentally, a lot of those changes can be frightening at first, especially what's known as ego death. Your ego is your sense of self that is located primarily in the brain and mind, and as the brain is being rewired, you lose your entire sense of self. Once you understand this ego death and the brain rewiring, you become much calmer in the face of all these changes. Even if sometimes you feel like you've lost a big part of who you are. The fifth part of the body that is most affected by a spiritual awakening is the immune system. The immune system is heavily affected by a spiritual awakening, mostly because a lot of the changes that happen in your body during an awakening can manifest in infections, either viral, bacterial, or fungal imbalances in your body. Since the physical function of your immune system is to clean up any pathogen threats to your health, it can really go into overdrive during an awakening. When we're in a state of homeostasis, it's normal for us to interact with bacteria, viruses, and fungi in our body. Our bodies are actually a collection of all of these microorganisms that are basically a part of the overall ecosystem. But there can be imbalances when we're going through a spiritual awakening. You can be really exhausted, even totally depleted from all the spiritual changes that are draining your chi or vital energy out of your body. As soon as your chi is drained, what happens is that it presents an opportunity for opportunistic pathogens like viruses and bacteria to start taking over, whereas previously they wouldn't. It is very common in a spiritual awakening for your immune system to feel a bit overwhelmed, because it is having to work through all of these spiritual processes that are manifesting into physical disease or issues. It's not only viruses and pathogens. Your immune system also can be on overdrive from trying to clean up toxins out of your body, gene mutations, and all of these other things that are coming from trauma or blocked energy. Your immune system is responsible for destroying any kind of mutated cell that is not working properly, like a cancerous cell, for example. It makes room for your body to intake more light codes. When your immune system is working properly, it is responsible for helping your cells to open up and create more space. It cleans out the old and helps your body make room for the new. When you upgrade, your body is able to download what's known as light codes. These are packets of light that your cells uptake and help your human avatar to evolve faster. The stronger your immune system, and the better it is at clearing up, the more space your cells have to absorb more light. Finally, the sixth body part most affected by a spiritual awakening is what is called fascia. Fascia is a connective tissue that surrounds pretty much everything in your body. It surrounds organs, muscles, and everything else. We can imagine that it looks like a tightly woven net, a web, or grid in our body. The physical function of fascia is to hold every part in place and give structure to the whole body. Many times when we're going through spiritual awakening, we can think we have a lot of tightness in our muscles. But actually, the tightness is happening in the fascia, not the muscles. Fascia stores a lot of information. It's a connective tissue that looks like a net, but also has these little passageways inside, so the net is like tubes that send information everywhere. The spiritual function of fascia is to store a lot of your history, your past life history, your past life traumas, and memories that happened to you in different timelines. You can think of the fascia as the physical representation of your Akashic records. The Akash is this beautiful living library of everything that has ever happened to you, or will happen to you. This library exists in a different dimension. This beautiful living library is where all of the experiences that you have had as a soul are stored, from the moment that you came out of source energy and started to individualize yourself. The Akashic records exist in a different dimension, but Fascia exists physically in this dimension. So the Fascia works as a holder of some of your Akashic records in your physical body. So you are walking around with your actual Akashic records inside of you, in the form of this Fascia. If you know how to work with your Fascia, you might also be able to heal past life traumas, leading you to ascend in your level of consciousness, and feel happier and lighter than ever. When Fascia is holding a lot of lower level energy, it becomes very hardened. The more dysfunction that it has stored, the more you're not coping with certain things, or not dealing with certain things, the harder the Fascia gets. So one of the things that you can do when you're having a spiritual awakening, especially if you're working through past life memories that are contained in your Fascia, is to use body work as a tool. Body work is absolutely fundamental in helping your Fascia release the information that it is trying to show you, and to release the traumas that you need to heal. You can work with your Fascia by stretching, self-massaging, or doing restorative yoga every time your body calls you to do it. It can be once a day, or up to 3 or 4 periods of undetermined lengths every day. The more pliable your Fascia is, the more it will release information, and help you process the Akashic memories that are meant to be processed in this life. Also, practicing grounding is a very efficient way to work with all 6 body parts previously discussed. Grounding can be done by walking barefoot in nature, hugging a tree, or lying down on the bare earth, meditation, conscious breathing, or contemplation. To ground your energy, you can rotate between many different grounding practices in order to keep your energy flowing in your body, and assist all the organs, the body parts, and systems that are most affected by an awakening. An added bonus of grounding practices is that they also help you remember who you are, and what you've come to do in this lifetime. I hope this video was helpful. Until next time, much love, and a great journey to you.